Don't scroll. Listen carefully. This message is for you. Your heart needs to hear this right now. I picture yourself arriving home after an ordinary day that felt no different from countless others. The evening air is calm, the last golden light of the setting sun stretches across the pavement, and everything around you feels wonderfully familiar. You reach your front door expecting nothing more than the usual stack of letters and advertisements, yet resting alone on the doorstep is a single cream-colored envelope unlike anything you have ever seen. There is no stamp, no return address, and no indication of who left it there. The paper feels soft beneath your fingertips, almost as though it has been carefully protected for many years. Across the front, written in elegant flowing handwriting, are 7 unforgettable words. Please read this before the ink disappears forever. A strange feeling of curiosity fills your heart. You look around the quiet street. No one is there. The trees sway gently in the evening breeze, birds sing their final songs before nightfall, and distant lights begin glowing in neighboring windows. Whoever left this envelope has already gone. Slowly you carry it inside, place it on the table, and simply stare at it for several moments. Something about it feels deeply personal, not because of magic or destiny, but because it reminds you of all the meaningful words people sometimes carry inside their hearts without ever finding the courage to share them. At last you carefully break the seal. Inside rests a beautifully folded sheet of paper, handwritten with extraordinary care. Before reading the first line, your eyes are drawn toward a tiny note in the corner of the page that quietly says, "You have 5 minutes before these words fade." Not because of mystery, but because every meaningful moment deserves to be valued before it slips away. You smile gently at the symbolic reminder and begin reading. The letter opens with a sentence unlike anything you expected. If you are holding these pages, then let this story remind you that love grows strongest through patience, honesty, gratitude, and everyday kindness. The words immediately feel warm and comforting. Rather than promising impossible futures, they invite quiet reflection. The imagined writer explains that throughout life many people postpone important conversations because they believe tomorrow will always provide another opportunity. They delay saying thank you because they assume appreciation is already understood. They postpone apologies because pride whispers that waiting is easier. They hold back encouragement because they imagine someone else will offer it instead. Yet time moves quietly forward while unspoken words remain locked inside the heart. As you continue reading this imagined letter, you picture another person somewhere else in the story sitting beside a softly glowing lamp late at night. They, too, are writing carefully across beautiful cream-colored pages. They cross out sentence after sentence, not because they lack feelings, but because they desperately want every word to express genuine appreciation rather than dramatic emotion. Finally they write, "The greatest love letter is not the one filled with perfect poetry. It is the one that inspires someone to become kinder tomorrow than they were yesterday." Those words linger in your thoughts. You realize this imagined letter is encouraging reflection rather than certainty. The story continues by describing an elderly bookseller who owned a tiny shop hidden between 2 busy streets. Every morning before opening his doors, he carefully placed handwritten notes inside random books. Each note contained only one sentence of encouragement. Some read, "Someone believes in you more than you realize." Others simply said, "Your kindness matters even when nobody notices." For more than 20 years he never signed his name because he believed encouragement should never depend on recognition. One afternoon a curious teenager asked why he spent so much time writing messages that most people would never trace back to him. The bookseller smiled and quietly replied, "Hope is like planting trees whose shade you may never sit beneath." Those words stayed with everyone who heard them, and now they become part of this imagined letter as well. Reading further, you notice another paragraph describing a young woman who volunteered every Saturday morning at a community garden. She patiently watered flowers, removed weeds, repaired broken fences, and greeted every visitor with warmth. Someone once asked why she devoted so much energy to a place that rarely received attention. She answered, "Beautiful things deserve care whether crowds gather to admire them or not." That simple answer transformed the way many people viewed everyday acts of service. The imagined writer pauses before adding another sentence beneath the story. Real affection often looks exactly like that, quiet care offered consistently without expecting applause. As those words settle into your thoughts, the room around you seems calmer than before. You begin thinking about people who quietly influenced your own life. Perhaps someone encouraged you after failure. Perhaps a teacher believed in you before confidence existed. Perhaps a neighbor showed unexpected kindness during a difficult season. Perhaps a friend listened patiently while everyone else hurried past. Those memories arrive gently, reminding you that life's greatest gifts often appear through ordinary moments that seemed small at the time. Looking up from the page, you notice 11:11 glowing softly on a nearby clock. Earlier that afternoon you happened to smile after seeing 222 printed on a receipt, and during your walk home you noticed a building marked 444. Many people enjoy treating repeating numbers like these as reminders to pause, breathe, and reflect. Whether viewed as meaningful coincidences or simply personal prompts for mindfulness, the imagined letter encourages you to let those moments become invitations to ask thoughtful questions. Have I thanked someone who quietly changed my life? Have I offered encouragement today? Have I spoken with patience instead of frustration? Have I become the kind of person whose everyday actions leave others feeling valued? Rather than searching for predictions about tomorrow, the letter gently redirects your attention toward the opportunities available right now. As the imagined story continues, the writer shares another memory. Years earlier they visited a small coastal village where an elderly lighthouse keeper faithfully climbed hundreds of steps every evening to light the beacon before darkness covered the sea. One traveler asked whether he ever grew tired of performing the same routine night after night. The keeper smiled and replied, "Ships rarely remember the lighthouse by name, but they always remember reaching home safely." Those words became another lesson carried into the letter. Quiet consistency often changes lives more deeply than dramatic gestures. Reading that passage, you begin recognizing a common thread connecting every story. None of the people sought admiration. None expected recognition. They simply chose kindness because they believed kindness itself was worthwhile. The imagined soulmate writing this letter finally confesses something deeply personal. For many years I believed love needed extraordinary moments to prove itself. Then I discovered that the strongest relationships are built through ordinary conversations, dependable actions, patient listening, honest apologies, and gratitude expressed before another day quietly slips away. You read those words again, slower this time, allowing each sentence to settle naturally. The page suddenly feels less like a mystery and more like a gentle reminder about the way meaningful relationships grow over time. As another minute quietly passes, you notice the edges of the ink beginning to fade almost imperceptibly. Not because of magic, but because the story itself is inviting you to remember that opportunities never remain available forever. Conversations postponed today may become impossible tomorrow. Gratitude delayed too long may never be spoken aloud. Encouragement withheld may never reach the person who needed it most. Before turning the page, your eyes stop at one final handwritten sentence resting alone at the bottom. The next page contains the truth I waited too long to understand. Part 2, the words that could never stay hidden. Don't scroll. Listen carefully. This message is for you. Your heart needs to hear this right now. My child, star. As you gently turn the page, you notice that the ink has already begun fading around the edges. The words are still readable, but they seem softer than before, reminding you that precious opportunities never remain exactly the same forever. Across the top of the page, written in beautiful flowing handwriting, is a single sentence that immediately captures your attention. My child, if there is one thing I hope you remember after this letter disappears, let it be this: love grows through the small things people choose every single day. You pause for a moment, allowing those words to settle in your heart. The imagined writer continues by explaining that they once believed the greatest love stories were built from dramatic moments, unforgettable surprises, and perfect timing. Yet after many seasons of joy, disappointment, hope, and personal growth, they discovered something far more meaningful. The strongest relationships are quietly built through patience after misunderstandings, encouragement after failure, honesty during difficult conversations, forgiveness when pride tempts us to stay silent, and gratitude expressed while people are still able to hear it. The letter explains that these simple choices rarely make headlines, but together they create a life filled with trust. The imagined writer remembers walking through a quiet village one autumn afternoon when golden leaves covered the streets like a soft blanket. At the edge of the village stood an elderly clockmaker whose tiny workshop had served the community for more than 50 years. Curious travelers often asked why he continued repairing old clocks instead of replacing them with new ones. The old craftsman would smile gently and answer, "Time is valuable, but so are the memories carried by the things that have traveled with us." Those words remained in the writer's heart because they realized relationships are much the same. Instead of abandoning people after every disappointment, genuine love often chooses to repair, restore, and patiently rebuild trust. Continuing through the letter, the writer describes another memory that forever changed the way they viewed kindness. During a rainy afternoon they noticed a young boy helping an elderly stranger carry heavy shopping bags home. Nobody asked him to help. Nobody applauded when he finished. He simply smiled, wished the stranger a peaceful day, and quietly continued walking. Watching that simple act, the writer understood that compassion is at its most beautiful when it expects nothing in return. They carefully write beneath the memory, "My child, never believe that small acts of goodness are insignificant. Sometimes the smallest kindness becomes the brightest memory in another person's life." Those words remain with you as you continue reading. The imagined letter tells another story about a woman who visited the same park every Sunday morning carrying a small notebook. She would sit beneath an old oak tree and write letters of appreciation to people who had quietly changed her life. Some letters thanked teachers who encouraged her when confidence was fading. Others thanked neighbors who offered help during difficult times. Several were written to lifelong friends who never realized how deeply their loyalty had been valued. She did not wait for birthdays or special occasions. She simply decided that gratitude should never depend upon a date on the calendar. Reading this, you begin thinking about the people whose ordinary kindness shaped your own journey. Perhaps someone believed in you when you doubted yourself. Perhaps someone listened without judgment during your hardest season. Perhaps someone offered hope with only a few gentle words. The letter invites quiet reflection rather than certainty, encouraging you to appreciate those memories while they remain close to your heart. Looking away from the page for a brief moment, you notice 11:11 glowing softly on a nearby digital clock. Earlier that day you happened to smile after seeing 222 printed on a receipt and later passed a building displaying 444 above its entrance. Many people enjoy treating repeating numbers like these as reminders to pause, breathe, and reflect. Whether viewed as meaningful coincidences or simply personal prompts for mindfulness, the imagined letter encourages you to let each appearance become an opportunity to ask thoughtful questions. Have I encouraged someone today? Have I shown patience instead of frustration? Have I thanked those who quietly supported me? Have I become the kind of person whose presence leaves others feeling lighter than before? Instead of searching those moments for predictions about the future, the letter gently points your attention back to the present, where kindness can always be chosen. As the fading ink grows even lighter, another paragraph slowly appears beneath the previous one. It reads, My child, if this letter vanishes before you finish reading, do not chase the disappearing words. Live them instead. Speak kindly while you have the chance. Forgive while healing is possible. Celebrate others without comparison. Listen with your full attention. Let your actions become the message that never fades. You continue reading with growing appreciation as the imagined writer recalls visiting a quiet seaside lighthouse where an elderly keeper faithfully climbed hundreds of steps every evening to light the beacon before darkness settled across the water. When asked why he never missed a single evening after so many years, he answered with a peaceful smile, Someone out there may never know my name, but they may reach home because this light was waiting. Those words become another lesson carefully woven into the letter. Love is often like that faithful light, steady, dependable, and quietly present even when nobody notices the effort behind it. The imagined writer closes this page with heartfelt honesty. For years I searched for extraordinary signs, but eventually I discovered that the greatest gift was learning to become a source of peace for others. My child, if these pages disappear, let compassion remain. If the ink fades, let gratitude stay. If the paper is forgotten, let your everyday choices become the love letter that never disappears. As you reach the bottom of the page, only one sentence remains perfectly clear while the rest of the writing slowly fades from sight. Turn the next page. The final truth has been waiting for you all along. Don't scroll. Listen carefully. This message is for you. Your heart needs to hear this right now. My child, as you slowly turn the next page, you notice something remarkable. Nearly all the words from the previous page have faded until only faint traces remain, yet the newest page appears brighter than before, as though it has been waiting patiently for this exact moment. Across the very top, written in graceful handwriting, are the words, "My child, if this letter disappears before you finish reading, remember that its purpose was never to stay on paper. Its purpose was always to live inside the choices you make every day." You pause, reading the sentence more than once, allowing its meaning to settle quietly within your heart. The imagined writer continues by sharing that they once spent years searching for extraordinary moments, believing true love would always arrive with perfect signs, dramatic speeches, or unforgettable surprises. But as life unfolded, they discovered something far more beautiful. The deepest expressions of love were found in the ordinary moments most people overlooked. The warm smile offered to a stranger having a difficult day, the patient conversation that prevented misunderstanding, the encouraging words spoken to someone who had almost given up, the apology offered without excuses, and the simple act of remaining faithful to promises long after the excitement of making them had faded. The letter explains that extraordinary relationships are built from ordinary days lived with extraordinary kindness. My child, never underestimate the quiet power of consistency, because hearts are often healed not by one remarkable moment but by thousands of gentle moments woven together over time. The imagined writer remembers visiting a quiet mountain village where an elderly woman spent every morning knitting blankets for families she had never met. Curious visitors often asked why she devoted so many hours to people who might never even know her name. She smiled kindly and answered, "Warmth does not need recognition to fulfill its purpose." Those simple words remained with the writer forever because they realized genuine love does not ask, "Will I receive something in return?" Instead it quietly asks, "How can I leave someone feeling more hopeful than when I found them?" The story then moves to another memory. One rainy afternoon the writer took shelter beneath the roof of a tiny railway station where an old station master greeted every traveler with the same cheerful smile. Whether someone arrived joyful, anxious, lonely, or exhausted, he welcomed each person with kindness that never seemed forced. Eventually someone asked him how he managed to remain so encouraging after decades of doing the same work. He laughed softly before replying, "I may never know which traveler is carrying the heaviest burden today, so I choose to greet everyone as though my kindness might be exactly what they needed." My child, the imagined writer says that those words changed the direction of their life because they realized we rarely know what silent struggles another person carries. A patient conversation, a sincere compliment, or a few moments of genuine listening may become someone's turning point even if we never discover it. As you continue reading, the letter invites you to remember the quiet heroes who shaped your own journey. Think about the teacher who encouraged you when confidence seemed impossible, the family member who believed in your future before you believed in yourself, the neighbor who offered unexpected help during difficult days, the friend who stayed beside you without demanding explanations, or even the stranger whose simple kindness restored your faith in people. Those moments may have seemed ordinary at the time, yet together they formed the foundation beneath many of your strongest memories. The imagined writer gently adds another sentence, "My child, gratitude becomes far more powerful when it is spoken while people can still hear it." Reading those words, you realize how often appreciation remains trapped inside the heart because people assume there will always be another tomorrow. The letter encourages you not to wait for perfect timing before expressing kindness, forgiveness, or encouragement. Looking away from the fading page for a brief moment, your eyes fall upon a nearby digital clock displaying 11:11. Earlier in the day you happened to notice 222 printed on a receipt, and while walking home you smiled after passing a building numbered 444. Many people enjoy treating repeating numbers like these as reminders to pause, breathe, and reflect. Whether viewed as meaningful coincidences or simply personal prompts for mindfulness, the imagined letter suggests allowing them to become gentle invitations to ask yourself thoughtful questions. Have I brought peace into someone's day? Have I spoken with compassion instead of impatience? Have I thanked those who quietly supported me? Have I become the kind of person whose everyday actions reflect the love I hope to receive? Rather than treating those moments as predictions about the future, the story invites you to use them as opportunities to return your attention to the present, where every meaningful choice is made. The writer then shares one final memory before the page disappears. They tell of an elderly carpenter who spent every spring repairing broken park benches without accepting payment. One child eventually asked why he continued fixing benches that strangers would use. The carpenter smiled warmly and replied, "Someone's happiest conversation may happen right here because this bench was ready when they needed it." That answer remained in the writer's heart because it revealed a simple truth: we may never fully understand the ripple effect created by even the smallest act of goodness. My child, your encouraging words may become another person's courage. Your patience may become another person's peace. Your forgiveness may become another person's fresh beginning. Your compassion may become the reason someone chooses hope instead of despair. As the final lines begin fading, the imagined writer carefully pens one last heartfelt message: if this letter disappears completely, do not mourn the vanishing ink. Instead, let every kind word you speak, every promise you keep, every hand you extend in compassion, and every act of gratitude you offer become the pages of a love letter that time itself can never erase. My child, the world rarely changes because of one dramatic moment. It changes because ordinary people quietly choose kindness again and again. You continue watching as nearly every word slowly disappears from the paper until only one sentence remains visible, shining more clearly than everything that came before. One final page remains, and it contains the message your heart was always meant to remember. Don't scroll. Listen carefully. This message is for you. Your heart needs to hear this right now. My child, you slowly lift the final page from the envelope, almost expecting it to be completely blank after watching the earlier words fade away. Instead, only a few lines remain, written in beautiful handwriting that seems calmer than everything you have read before. There is no sense of panic now, no race against the disappearing ink, only a quiet invitation to read each sentence with your full attention. The first line simply says, "My child, if you have reached this final page, then you already carry the message this letter hoped to leave behind." You pause for a long moment, letting those words settle into your heart. The envelope that first seemed mysterious now feels wonderfully ordinary, almost as though its true purpose was never to impress you with mystery but to remind you how easily meaningful moments can be overlooked while searching for something extraordinary. You continue reading as the imagined writer shares one final memory. They remember visiting an elderly potter whose small workshop stood beside a peaceful river. Every shelf was filled with bowls, cups, and vases that bore tiny marks of repair instead of being perfectly smooth. When asked why he never hid those repaired places beneath fresh paint, the old craftsman smiled and gently answered, "The repaired places remind us that something survived instead of being thrown away." Those words stayed with the writer for many years because they realized the same truth belongs in every meaningful relationship. No friendship, no family, and no lasting love becomes strong by avoiding difficulties altogether. Strength grows when people choose understanding instead of pride, patience instead of anger, honesty instead of silence, and forgiveness instead of resentment. My child, never believe that imperfections make a relationship worthless. Very often they become the places where compassion quietly learns to grow. As you continue reading, another story unfolds about a young musician who practiced every evening in a quiet town square. At first only a handful of people stopped to listen. Some evenings nobody paused at all, yet the musician continued returning day after day with the same joyful dedication. Months later an elderly woman approached with tears in her eyes and quietly said, "You never knew this, but your music gave me hope during the loneliest season of my life." The musician had believed nobody was listening, yet unseen hearts had been encouraged all along. My child, the imagined writer gently reminds you that kindness often works exactly the same way. You may never know how deeply your patience, your encouragement, your honesty, or your quiet generosity influences another person. Sometimes the greatest difference is made long before the results can ever be seen. The letter continues by describing a teacher who ended every school day with the same simple words, "Remember to leave someone's day brighter than you found it." Many students forgot mathematics formulas, historical dates, and spelling lessons over the years, but they never forgot that single sentence. As adults, many of them carried those words into their families, workplaces, and communities, quietly passing kindness from one life to another. Reading this, you begin thinking about the advice that has remained with you throughout your own journey. Perhaps someone once told you never to lose hope. Perhaps someone encouraged you to keep trying after failure. Perhaps someone reminded you that compassion is never wasted. Those simple words often become lifelong companions, shaping countless decisions without us even noticing. Looking briefly away from the page, you notice 11:11 glowing on the nearby clock. Earlier in the week you smiled after seeing 222 on a receipt and 444 displayed on the entrance of an old building. Many people enjoy treating repeating numbers like these as reminders to pause, breathe, and reflect. Whether viewed as meaningful coincidences or simply personal prompts for mindfulness, you allow them to become quiet opportunities to ask yourself, have I shown gratitude today? Have I chosen patience over frustration? Have I spoken hope into someone's life? Have I appreciated the ordinary blessings that quietly surround me? The imagined writer encourages exactly that kind of reflection, reminding you that the greatest changes begin with small choices repeated consistently. As you approach the end of the page, the handwriting becomes even more personal. My child, it reads, "For many years I searched for the perfect words to write in this letter, believing that one unforgettable sentence could change everything. Then I realized that people are rarely transformed by beautiful sentences alone. They are transformed by people who live those sentences every single day." You slowly continue reading as the writer explains that the disappearing ink was never meant to create fear. It was a symbol of time itself. Every conversation eventually becomes yesterday. Every opportunity quietly passes. Every ordinary morning eventually becomes a cherished memory. That is why kindness should never be postponed. Appreciation should never remain trapped inside the heart. Forgiveness should never wait for perfect circumstances. Encouragement should never be delayed until it feels convenient. The imagined writer shares one final story about an elderly gardener who planted young oak trees even though he knew he would never live long enough to sit beneath their shade. A curious child once asked why he spent so much effort caring for trees whose full beauty he would never experience. The gardener smiled warmly and replied, "The future becomes kinder whenever someone chooses to plant what another generation will enjoy." Those words became the final lesson the writer wished to pass on. Every generous action plants a seed. Every encouraging conversation plants a seed. Every patient response plants a seed. Every act of forgiveness plants a seed. We may never witness the full harvest, but that does not make the planting any less worthwhile. My child, let your daily choices become those seeds. Let your words offer hope where discouragement has settled. Let your actions bring peace where conflict has taken root. Let your gratitude remind others that their quiet goodness has never gone unnoticed. As the final lines begin fading from the page, only one paragraph remains perfectly clear. It says, "When this letter disappears completely, do not search for another envelope. Become the message yourself. Let your life be the letter that brings comfort to the discouraged, patience to the struggling, forgiveness to the hurting, gratitude to the forgotten, and hope to those who have almost stopped believing that kindness still exists." That is how every beautiful story continues long after the final page has been turned. You watch quietly as the last traces of ink disappear until the paper becomes completely blank. Instead of feeling disappointed, you smile softly because you finally understand. Nothing important has been lost. The words have simply moved from the page into the heart. You carefully fold the now empty sheet, place it back inside the envelope, and set it where it will remind you each morning that the greatest love letters are never measured by how long the ink remains visible. They are measured by how deeply their message changes the way we treat the people who walk beside us every single day. My child, as you close the envelope one final time, you realize the story has reached its end, but the message has only just begun, because from this moment forward every act of compassion, every sincere apology, every expression of gratitude, every promise faithfully kept, every hand extended in kindness, and every heart encouraged by your words becomes another sentence in the love letter that time itself can never erase.